with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Clarissa, who is certainly a well-known member of our club and a master of cement and concrete.
So here it is, the fantastic work of cement and concrete on postcards. And actually, I thank Lean for giving me a more thriller title than what I had before. So that's good. So for those who don't know me professionally, I was working in research on concrete and cement for all my career, the one that made money as opposed to spending it buying postcards. So that's why I was interested to find what there is available on postcards. And then, of course, I go to more, want to know about the history of the concrete, and I'm learning stuff that I was not aware of. So the first postcard is just a fun postcard by Elmer Anderson in 51, who actually will introduce the whole problem of concrete and cement that get mixed together. So the cut, it says, the cement highways. Well, they're not cement highway, they're concrete highways. So I will explain to you why in a minute. So what is concrete? Concrete is many compositions. So it has cement. Cement is a powder. Therefore, highway made out of cement, you'll be walking in powder, which is not very nice. So cement mixed with water, and you will become cement paste. Then you add sands and you get mortar. Usually the mortar is used between bricks to connect smaller items, or between the mortar you put it between the bricks. And then you add gravel, and they can be very, very big depending what you're building. And that is concrete. Obviously, then you can add admixtures and other chemical to change the property of the material and render it easy to work with, or other reasons. So the next, what is cement? Cement is a man-made material with limestone, gypsum, and clay that are ground together. And they are first, of course, quarried. This is a postcard. By the way, anything that is framed in red, it means that is a picture from the computer. What is not framed is postcards. So I don't have to all the time telling you. So this is, so it's a postcard, it's a quarry that doesn't exist anymore, but where limestone and cement in West Virginia was used to collect cement. And this one is Lime, Oregon, is a Portland cement plant quarry. So they were extract the limestone needed to do that. Then the mixture is cooked, burned at a very high temperature in a kiln, which is this kind of rotatory oven. And this is a postcard of it from Indochina, which is South Asia. And these, as you can see how big they are. This is a man right here. So they are huge, and they are rotating, moving the material along so that it gets burnt, and you obtain clinker. Then the cement is ground, it's become a powder, and it is collected in a cement truck if you want to transport it. A cement truck has like, it looks like cones together that transport the powder. Then it gets mixed, the cement with the aggregates, the sands, and it moves in a concrete truck. So this is a concrete truck and not a cement truck. And this is a cement truck. As you can see, they're very different. So cement plants, this is one that I acquired recently. It's from Lime, Oregon, where I show you the quarry for getting the raw materials. It operated quite a while, but then in 2018, it was demolished. Here you can see the kiln, and here probably the storage of the material. This is a more recent postcard, and it was a project in Italy in 2000s to have a power plant almost like floating on the bay. And here you probably inside here, the kiln will be covered here. The ready mix plants, here is where the concrete will be mixed, and then it will be delivered on the trucks that will transport it elsewhere. So to remember, cement and water, they love each other. It becomes a chemical reaction between the two. And the strength of the concrete is because it's a good hydration of the cement. Therefore, water should be there, and you should not dry the cement, but hydrated it. So this is a cartoon to say love affair between the cement and the water. These are fun postcards. I like cats and I like concrete and mortar, therefore makes, obviously I will collect these. So this one is a Blue Cat series, which is a modern postcard, and there is gazillion of blue cats of any kind, and is Inez and Yuk from Belarusia that has a mortar. It seems to me that's very, very liquidy. This one, I'm not sure how they will use it. And this one, probably everybody knows, is the Mainzer cats. Eugene Artung from Switzerland who actually designed them. And then here you have a good example of a concrete mixer, but because they use it on brick, it has to be a mortar mixer. The coarse aggregates probably are not there. This one is a favorite one because it says they're recruiting to join the basin, but she's on high heels, and I'm not sure how much she can actually do on this attire for being a mason. Apparently, this postcard is part of a series, but I saw them in a book, the rest, but never found anyone else to buy for other crafts or creators. So a brief history of concrete. Concrete is very old. The first concrete structure was built in Syria in 6,500 BC. They were found in Egypt. They were found in China, but they were mainly mortar between the stone. They were not the cast in place as we know today. The first structure cast in place was a Pantheon in Rome, and is basically the whole. They has a wall structure to, and the concrete is in between, and especially the dome. So this is an older postcard of the Pantheon. This is a more modern one of the Pantheon who's still alive. And this is a picture of, is a postcard as well, of the dome that was cast in place. Cast in place means they put the formwork there, then they pour the concrete, and then they demolded it. And it's still unreinforced dome ever built. So it's pretty incredible. After the Roman, the technique to make cement was forgotten, and it was reappearing in 1414 when people looked at the Vitruvius books and rediscovered them. And so John Beaton made a limestone containing a lot of clay, and he fired into a clinker, and with that ground into a powder, and he uses that to create a lighthouse, which is this lighthouse. You want to know why it's so important, but the rock underneath shifted, and so the lighthouse was not sustained on top, and it was destroyed. But then it was rebuilt in the same way, and is actually the one that exists today is the Douglas Tower that was still exists to the present day. Again, this is mainly used in between the aggregates, between the stones to hold everything together. The reason the previous lighthouse were all in wood and they regularly burned down. Then in 1817, Louis Vicat designed an artificial cement mixing, again, powder lime and clay and firing it. And after submerging in water to get live lime, but he did not patent it. Therefore, we don't talk about the Vicat cement. And this is a bridge that he built in France Souillac Bridge in France. It was built by Louis Vicat, and is one of the first bridge ever made with artificial cement. In 1822, there were a British cement, Jane Frost, and for a long time, the British were the #1 in cement production or artificial cement, and they developed a cheaper alternative than what Vicat has done. Another Englishman, John Adspin, created the Portland cement, and he patented it. That's why we talk about Portland cement today. And he called it Portland cement because the stone produced looked like the stone found in Portland, England. For a long time, it was the Englishmen were dominating the cement, but then evolution made that the German got the better cement that was used for a long time and imported to United States. And finally, of course, also in United States, Ransom cement in USA, they produce it locally because transporting the cement from abroad was very expensive. So this is a stamp and a postcard, but a postcard that depicts a stamp that honor Joseph Adspin in 1824 about the production of cement. And this is just for fun. It's a concrete mixer, and it is called marzipan, which actually was marzipan is a candy that is invention is attributed to somebody in Germany. The 19th century concrete was mainly for industrial building. Nobody wanted to live in houses that are made out of concrete. And so, but in 1891, George Bartholomew, he poured the first concrete roads in the United States. And it's called Street in Bellefontaine in Ohio, and the street is still there. So when you do good concrete, you have good streets. 1960. This is a postcard from circa 1962. So for a while, tall building or big construction were not made out of concrete because people fearing that this new material would not be good. And so mainly home in England and in France were built, and a Frenchman, Francois Cognier, added steel rods to prevent the walls from bulging out. And that helped trying to build taller buildings. In 1884, Ernest Ransom had a patent on twisted steel bar, which are very similar to the rebar that we use today. And that made it possible to build the Ingalls building in Cincinnati, Ohio, that is 16-story. Nevertheless, it took over 2 years for the town to agree to authorize this building to be built because they were not convinced that it will sustain or stay up. So they were not kind of fearful that it will collapse. And it did not. 1911, there is this bridge that was built, and the reason I added it here is not necessarily a first of any kind, but I found it interesting. First thing is in Rome, and designed by Giovanni Antonio Porcedu. And when they demolded it, the story said that when they took the demolding out of this concrete bridge, he was so sure that the bridge will hold that he was in a small boat under the bridge with his son while they were taking off the scaffolding and everything holding the bridge. He was sure that it will not collapse, taking his son on a boat. So, and it was on, that's why it's called Risorgimento, because it was celebration on the 50th anniversary of Italian unification. This is a recent acquired postcard, and I found it funny or interesting. The legends say 1914, La Bataille de la Marne, in 6 or 12, between the 6th or 12th of September, and basically says house in reinforced concrete that resisted the bombing. It's almost like they're using it as advertisement for a concrete house. This is hangar for airplanes, and there are huge huge for planes at Orly Airport in France, and it was designed by Eugène Fressinet, who did also a lot of testing and invention, and especially he was granted a patent to pre-stressed concrete, which is now very commonly used for most bridges today. So now you know a little bit on the history of concrete, and now a little bit on how mixing and what you transport. So there are different ways to mix concrete. The first one that everybody knows is the concrete truck that you see on your roads very often. Then a non-till drum, which basically the concrete is mixed here on rotation, and then the ingredients or the aggregates are poured into it, and then it constantly rotates, and then it spits out the concrete. Or a tilting drum, which instead you feed everything here, and then when it's mixed, you tilt it down to empty it. And I will tell you postcards on all these examples from way back. I could not find a pan mixer, which is basically a pan with blades inside to mix. And I did not find something that has continuous mixer, which basically you constantly feed the mixer and then take the concrete out. So this is a reversible drum mixer, which is a concrete truck. In reversal because you mix in one direction, and to empty you turn the drum in the other direction. And the interesting one of this, other than is pink, which is not very common to have a concrete truck that is pink, is that is an advertisement and is written in 3 languages: Czech, Dutch, and English. And there's born a Czech Republic company that was advertising their concrete trucks. So it's a modern postcard. Tilting drum mixer. So again, this one was one of my early postcard I bought because I found it fascinating. The concrete mixer is here, and it has been moved by a horse. Not something that you see often these days. Another tilting drum mixer, again, it's transported by a horse. Here is a bag of cement, probably. And then there are actually 2 concrete mixer on this, I don't know, farm. I don't know what they're building, but they are mixing concrete. And this one, I recently got it at York, and I found this funny. They make fun. They put a man inside the concrete mixer. Do not recommend that. And there is a similar one that has the people, 2 men in, side by side. This one is a homemade concrete mixer. It's in the back of the postcard. Ralph is in the middle. The others, Mr. Schrober and son Ralph, his cement mixer, made by himself. So basically it looks like a trash can made together, and then they put it on a motor and they rotate it. So they made their own concrete mixer. Hand mixing, of course, you can always hand mixing concrete. For small jobs, it's probably not a problem. And this is probably, according to All Out Away, last time I did, it's probably a World War I postcard, and their U.S. Army uniform on the man. And somebody is doing laundry there, and the other one are mixing cement, which actually is probably concrete. They're mixing cement with water and some sand. So non-tilting drum mixer, you can see here the the hopper where you put all the materials, and then it turns, and then it spits out the concrete on this side. And this one you can see operational. Here is the hopper that is down, where we load it with the material, and then with a pulley it will be lifted up to feed into the concrete mixer. This one is also one I received recently, and is a big postcard. It's 6x5 to 4x5 inches, so it's oversized postcard. And the translation is from the Western Front, our Feldgrauen, which is a gray uniform of the German, and a concrete mixer close behind the front. So it's World War II Germany. I was very happy to get it. I'm sure there's not that many. And of course, concrete, as you know, once you mix it, before it's set and becomes hard, is a liquid form, and people can walk in it, which is not highly recommended, but to spread it out. And so they are basically pouring concrete in 1915. This one is close to Ashley, is an Arkansas River, and is interesting because you can see the scaffolding and the form that is used to build this concrete bridge. And it says cement arch bridge under construction by the Topeka Bridge and Iron Company. And it has a supervisor and the location. Obviously, this is not cement, but it's a concrete bridge. Hope for them. And I had a hard time finding which bridge was it be. And I think this is it. It's a 9-span reinforced concrete bridge, Arkansas River and Arkansas City. I could not find it if it still exists or not. If anybody knows, let me know. Would love to know if it's still in operation. Of course, concrete was heavily used for all the dam that we built in our country. The Boulder or Hoover Dam, as it's called today, you can see here a postcard with all the while under construction, and it says 3,002,500 yard of concrete plus additional yard for the power plant and other structure. To know that 1935 when it was finished, and in just on 16 that ASTM, which is the organization in the United States that makes standards, is the specified how the cement should be to control the quality. This is the various stages of the concrete construction. It started in 31 and it finished in 35. And of course, the today here is not, the postcard is way older than, is not like today. To build the dams, you have to transport the concrete somewhere. So these are the kind of hoppers that were used to transport the concrete on the location where they need it. This one is from the Crankule Dam, which is on Columbia River in Washington State. And the construction was 1933 to 1942. As you can see, they're pretty heavy and the men have to move it to where they want it and is attached to a crane. Otherwise, they can have also a bucket, a pretty big bucket square. And here you can see for the Shasta Dam within Sacramento River in California, how the dam is built by sections that are filled with concrete, layer by layer. And you can't see the men, but they are very small, huge. And then there's a crane to transport the buckets where they need it. And here on also the Shasta Dam, they are vibrating the concrete in one of those containers. And they have to fill each one of them. This one is interesting because it's a train and they say it's a transportation of wet concrete, as you can see on the back. And it has a Dexter Portland Cement Company, Nazareth, Pennsylvania, that advertise what they do, that and what is this in 1913. And I can show you again how they transport the concrete, fresh concrete on location to be able to be poured to construct whatever they needed to build. So it's an advertisement for the Dexter Poland Cements company, where they were building the Martins Creek Viaduct. And of course, concrete can also be used for very mundane things. And I'll show you a couple examples now. One is a bench. And I was lucky to find the one where they had the formwork for the bench with two of the creator. And then the bench when it's finished by three of them. So somebody must have taken the picture. You can recognize some of the same personnel. So it's building a simple bench. You can do that with concrete. Or this one. This one is in Hutto, I suppose it says Texas. And the legend started why first is the only city in the whole United States that has a hippo as a mascot. And the reason they have a hippo as a mascot, the legend says that in 1915, there was a circus going through town, and somehow when they stopped, the a hippo got free, escaped from the circus, and they had to find him. And then eventually, of course, he was found and reported, and so stop the trains. Hippo losing Hutto was the headlines on the newspaper on the area at the time, and so the rest is history. Apparently, they say they have about 3,000 concrete-made hippo in the town in the area as a mascot. So I don't know if it's true, but maybe one day I will have to go to see for myself. And of course, this is Ashley introduced us to this some time ago, and you can hear her talk with all the details on the Wichita Postcard Club YouTube. Dionisio Rodriguez, and he built this kind of structures, including others, on all out of what I gather. It probably was more like a mortar. Probably they used concrete, but he was very fine reproducing the colors. These are fake colors, but reproducing the color of the textures of live stones or branches is fascinating. Apparently there is some of his creation in Maryland. I'm waiting for the spring to come and then I'll go see them. Concrete sheep, you will not believe, but yes, we had concrete sheep that were built with steel and ferro cement. So ferro cement is basically sand cement and steel reinforcement. So there is no really coarse aggregate for, say, concrete, but it's called a concrete sheep. This postcard specifically was circa 1935. It was mailed in 1958. So this is the SS Atlantis. Is one of the most famous of 12 concrete ship that were built by the Liberty Shipbuilding Company in Brunswick, Georgia, United States. This one was launched on December 18, and it went back and forth with Europe, bringing back some of the soldiers from World War I. But in June 8, 1926, when a storm hit, he became stuck on some sands, and nothing was able to move it from there. So it's still there. This is in 1960s, and it's deteriorating because the ferro cement, I mean, all the rusting from the metal. And this is a postcard that says going 35, 40, and then now it's almost gone. And of course, you should read everything about the history of the San Paulo, of SS Palo Alto in San Francisco that Shav wrote about on your newsletter. So postcards were used for advertisements. So this is the Penn Allen Cement Company in Allentown, Pennsylvania, that was changed hands a couple times, changed name a couple times. So from the name, because it changed name, I can say Penn Allen Portland Cement was 1902 for this postcard that was mailed on 1908. So this is about the time of this postcard. And they were advertisement, why not write to us to buy some of the standard specification guarantee, highest quality, prompt shipments, and they show men at work. This is how they tested the bridges. And so they put a lot of trucks full of stones and they drive it on top of the bridge and it's still done today that way to verify that the bridge does not collapse. But this one is more interesting than just the bridge because it has in France by the Ciment Portland Artificiel, which means artificial or man-made, and it has an order for 1929, an order of cement that was requested. Of course, roads were made out of concrete, and here you can have a non-tilting concrete mixer. You can see it's, and they're walking to trying to smooth it out. You can see it, I enlarge it, that's why it's yellow border, where they put the aggregates in here and moving up. First bucket of the concrete from Freandam. They were very, how do you call, proud of being the first bucket of concrete. The Galveston seawall in 1902 was also built, and there is a concrete mixer here to pour on the buckets that were lifted to bring it where it needed. Another mixer in the back, pouring concrete from the mixer, 3 yards. Again, you can see the bucket with a pulley that will be taken by a crane to be placed where it needs to be. This one is, they look like a big concrete mixer. The reason this one I flag it is because it has a Ramson, which Ernest Ramson founded the company to create the rebars, but apparently he also gave his name to some machines because he said dual drum paver. And here it says, we are doing a great job. Of course, you have to have rebars on concrete because concrete is very good in compression, but very not so good and brittle in flexural. And so these are example of rebars get put all over before concrete get poured. And this is the ultimate amount of rebars that can, in French, this one is a French postcard. And on the back, I'll translate for you what it says. It said, dear friends, still no results. When I will know them, I will write to you and I will tell you all the detail that you're asking. Sincerely. So I'm not sure they're referring about result dealing with the concrete or something else. No way to know. All right, so other than them, the Panama Canal has a lot of postcards dealing with the concrete. So there is the locks are where most of the concrete was built. Gatun, Pedro Miguel, and Miraflores. This is a nice postcard that shows where the Panama Canal is a modern postcard. Here to show you the size of one of those locks, the Gatun locks, you can see all the Marines or sailors around it, how big those locks were. And of course, for building such big locks, they need a lot of concrete. So the Gatun lock was started in August 24, 1909, and it was completed in 1913. And they had 4,500,000 cubic yards of concrete that were poured in those 3 locks. And you can see here again a bucket where the 4 tons of concrete on lock side of Gatun that were poured. Again, a concrete mixer here for the Pedro Miguel lock on the Panama Canal, and they're railing so that they can move the mixer along where they need it the most. Another for making the floor of the lock, and here you can see the concrete mixer. I'll show you bigger here. They were, look at how big this concrete mixer is. This is a man here, and again here, this is for the Miraflores lock. And is again a bucket with a pulley to bring the concrete where it needs to be. Now, this is a fun postcard because don't throwing away the cement sacks. Because if they are wet, you cannot put the cement in it, because if you wet the cement before you use it, then you spoiled the whole thing. And cement has to be dry as much as possible. And so they say, but 10 cents a bag, it's expensive. And there was a whole study on what kind of bags and what kind of material the paper bag should be used to get the cement moved. And on the back is an order of a ton bag of cement for Curtis Bay, Baltimore. As I'm in Maryland, this was a nice finding. In 1924, they were asking for shipped, when they were shipped and containing how many bags. Ironton Portland Cement Company was in the had the cement, the proper cement, and meet the tests and used by the government to build the Ohio River locks and dams. And here are orders that were mailed. I have a whole set of them where they were sending order in 1903, order for the cement, and then they were shipping where it needs to be. The Irontown manufacturer of cements, unfortunately, it was end up very poorly. It was operating until the 1970s, but then a tragic accident that basically flooded the basements of the plants and killed quite a few men. So today it will be all destroyed. But because there were men killed inside the basement and they're still flooding there, their property said that is haunted, so that there is some spirits floating around. The owner of the area says no way, and he's planning to demolish the whole thing to build some property in town. Advertisement, this is one of the buckets that you can see that on the dam. And this is a U.S. Bureau of Reclamation established in 1902 and is best known for all the dam and power plant and canal that it constructed in 17 Western states. The Bureau of Reclamation still exists today and is still the second largest producer of electrical power in the United States. The mission is to increase the water demands and to ensure the quality of the concrete that is used. Advertisement, 1953, thank for your order, is on your way, and a little card by the Limestone Product Corporation of America. And still, was addressed to me when I was working in the year 2000, and it was advertisement for some instruments to detect some property of the concrete. And the last, couldn't you get a concrete road while I'm doing the dishes? This is from the Tigno brothers, and I thought I can finish with a fun postcard like that. That's all I had, but I'm willing to entertain any question you might have.
That's great. Thank you very much for doing that for us, Clarissa. I've got some questions. First of all, I've always been confused. Can you please define clinker? What exactly is clinker?
Clinker is what come out of the kiln. The clinker is when you put the raw material into the kiln. What comes out is the clinker.
Oh, so it's the dry powder.
It's not powder yet.
Oh.
Is whatever comes out. Usually is probably big stones like this that come out that have been burned and cooked, mixing this type of material in the kiln, and it comes out. Then it has to be ground.
Oh, ground.
Usually then they add gypsum at that time, and then it be ground and then it's becoming cement.
Okay, thank you for that. I always was confused about that. I know that Mark had a question. Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, my question was about asphalt.
Haha.
Do you have
No,
any
no.
asphalt postcards?
No, I have not, and I don't look for them. So they probably exist. I'm sure they exist, but I don't look for them because the asphalt is the competition for the
Yeah.
roads.
Is there a rivalry between the asphalt experts and the concrete experts, sort of like Stanford and Berkeley, or Harvard and Yale? Is it that sort of thing?
They're sort of, but for roads, yes, we consider concrete roads will last longer if done properly, which is I specify if done properly. But the asphalt is obviously cheaper, and you can coat everything with concrete roads that are not done properly. That you coat them with asphalt, and asphalt is is a totally different technology because asphalt bitumen that is used, and then yes, they use the same aggregates. Actually,
well, I can tell you in the parking lot of my local library, they just repaved it with asphalt, and I got out of my car and I thought, my shoes were sticking to the asphalt and was making that sound, and it sort of had a smell to it. And I thought, why didn't they do this with concrete?
Because resurfacing with concrete, if you already had concrete on it, it's not always easy to make sure that the new concrete adhere correctly to the old concrete.
But asphalt is an industry, and you would think they would have postcards going back 100
I'm
years.
sure they might, but I have never. I can't say I never seen it. I never looked for them, so I don't know.
All right, I'm gonna find an asphalt postcard and at the next postcard show, and I'm gonna send it to you, Clarissa.
Okay.
Don, I know you have a question. Unmute yourself, please.
I have several questions. First of all, the card about the Mason, was that an advertisement for the Masonic order?
I don't know. That is your question. Is she has a brick and a thing, so I don't know.
The Masons do not advertise, so that's
Yeah, they don't. So Mason is the one that put the wall together with bricks.
yes, I know, but I was wondering why that woman was on the postcard.
I don't know. But there is a set of postcard with that green trim with other.
I can probably give you an idea.
Okay.
I collect women's suffrage postcards, and at that time period, when women were still trying to get the right to vote, there were a lot of anti-suffrage cards, but there were just a lot of anti-women's cards in general. And so the whole idea was that if women's sphere was in the home, women were supposed to be in the home, and men's sphere was out in business and doing work. And so they were just equating women getting the right to vote with being outside of their sphere. And if they got the right to vote, well, then they were going to be policemen, and then they were going to be, and so there were a lot of jokey postcards. There are a lot of jokey postcards showing women how preposterous that a woman could be a policeman or a fireman or a mason. So it's probably one of those cards.
Okay, another question. You showed that French postcard of the hangars in Orly, and they apparently were for dirigibles.
Yeah.
Airships, not airplanes. But
yeah, sorry. Yeah.
And I also wondered about you said these lighthouses were built of wood and they caught fire. I think that'd be kind of dangerous for the guy that was running the lighthouse up on top of the tower.
Yes. but when you didn't have concrete yet.
Yeah, and then also the seawall in Galveston in 1902 was built after that great catastrophe in Galveston.
Oh, okay.
Hurricane that killed so many people. Then they built the seawall in 1902. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? I've got a question. Oh, go ahead, Roseanne.
It's kind of a comment more than a question, but here in San Diego, the downtown area was built by John D. Spreckles, whose family was well known in San Francisco. And he left San Francisco after the earthquake because he was so terrified of it. And so he built all the buildings in downtown along what was D Street, now Broadway. I know that most of you aren't that familiar with it. Out of concrete. And they were all the same height. So when you look at a postcard out, it's all the same on both sides of the street.
Mhm.
And his architect actually lives in a wooden Victorian a couple miles from where I live here. And it's a very different thing. You know, he designed it for Spreckles, and Coronado, which was also pretty much Spreckles town. Everything was built, other than the Hotel Del out of Redwood, was built out of concrete.
Well, concrete at one point was advertised after a couple of fires that it was resistant to fire, resistant to everything, which is not quite true, but definitely better than wood. That's why I
Mhm.
saw the one with the bombing, 1914 World War I bombing of the area, and the house out of concrete did not collapse, which is, as we know, was partially pure luck, because concrete can be bombed.
Yeah.
We can see that in Gaza these days.
I've got another question for you. I was curious about, you talk about stressing concrete. Is there a formula that you have to go through to get stressed concrete? What is stressed concrete?
Pre-stressed. Pre-stressed concrete.
Oh, re-stressed. I'm sorry.
Pre-stressed.
Oh, pre-stressed. Okay.
Pre-stressed concrete. So when you can build concrete by putting all the rebars and then you pour the concrete. That's reinforced concrete. But you can also try, especially for bridges, you pull the rebars on both sides like a rubber band, very strong. Then you pour the concrete around. Then you release the rebars a little bit so they will compress the concrete in between.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'm learning something brand new. Thank you for that.
So to do that, it will allow, because the concrete is very good on compression, not on flexural. So if you want to bend concrete, that's easy if there is no rebar in it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to say,
Go ahead,
Clarissa, I
Don.
thought that was a fabulous collection that you put together. Just amazing. I don't know
Yeah.
how you found them all. They're
Well,
wonderful.
I'm still looking.
Yeah. If I had any in my collection, I'd send them to you, but I think they're rather rare.
Yeah. Well, what I'm trying to do now is that I read a couple books about the history of concrete, not the technology, the history, which I didn't know too much about it, because when you are an engineer, you're not dealing with history. And I'm trying to find postcard of the different buildings. If they still exist, you can find a postcard, of the building that were produced or more modern, or the original if they were built in the early 1900s. So I'm still a way to go, but little by little.
Takes time. I've got one other question regarding that postcard that you showed, the old postcard with the horse-drawn cement mixer.
Concrete mixer, please.
Concrete mixer. How did the concrete mixer move? Was that done by horsepower as well?
Oh, that's a good question. Or they were just turning. It doesn't have to be turned that fast.
Okay.
So
So it might have been, the guys might have been doing it themselves then.
Do people, workmen on those dams ever fall into the wet concrete and get lost?
Yeah.
I,
don't-
I
But they
hope
don't
not for
tell you
them.
about it.
No pictures of that happening.
Huh?
Trapped
Wasn't-
in, aren't there multiple people
In the
trapped
Hoover
in
Dam.
the Boulder Dam?
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. I thought like a lot of people were lost.
Yeah, like dozens.
Or
Oh,
more.
God,
Yeah.
that's just awful.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dear,
You know, that was pre-OSHA.
that's terrible.
They might not have been tied down well. You know, you fall, slip and fall, you're in wet concrete.
Yeah.
When they built the Kingswood Dam up in Pennsylvania, they had a fellow fall in, and when they took the forms off, he was up against the form. He was right there.
Oh my
They could
gosh.
just pull him out. But I mean,
Oh,
he was long gone. But that was a long time ago, pre-OSHA. Yeah.
Terrible.
Well, yeah. You try not to drop.
Clarissa, you were an engineer, Clarissa, so you tried to see that that was avoided. Huh?
No, not quite, because I was not a structural engineer. I was a material engineer. So I only deal with the material side of how to make how to test the material so I can control the material is good and how to make sure it lasts longer. Or most of my career is on the rheological property, and rheological is the science of pouring concrete, of the fluid part. So I was, trying to how to predict and how to test.
I was curious about one other thing that maybe you can answer for me. On the Shasta Dam here in California, you showed pictures of it being built like in large squares, and it was poured that way. Well, when they did that, doesn't that leave a gap between the?
No, they go in between, but they
Oh,
have to build. They fill everything.
Okay. So it
They're
all runs together. There's no gaps in there.
No, there's no gap. Otherwise, it won't work.
Yeah, I'll just say it's fascinating presentation, Clarissa, and I saw your presentation you gave to another club, I guess it was Wichita, but you have added cards and you've updated your presentation. So it's just, I learned something new and saw new cards this time. It was just wonderful.
Yeah, I changed some of the cards, and I have more about the history of the concrete.
Yeah, it was really good.
So I added out, and I added yours. Haha, now that I have them.
Yes, yes.
Are
I
you-
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other
Clarissa, I
questions?
just want to say thank you. You did fabulous job. I learned so much and I
Oh,
really
thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. And if you feel like other question later, you know where to find me.
Right.
Yeah, we do.
Now that I finally know what a clinker is, my life is fulfilled, I'll tell you that. Anyway, thank you so much to all of you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. And the job you did, Clarissa, was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.